but it's hard. And it's lonely.
There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have.
I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what? Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're gonna bring another person to play this role, because you just screwed this thing up.
Is Rachel Zegler preparing to spill the tea on all the behind-the-scenes fiascos that tanked Disney's Snow White remake? That's the question lighting up Hollywood rumor mills.
Let's say that you were in a Hollywood movie, and the trailer for that movie dropped on YouTube, and it instantly became the #1 most downvoted trailer in the history of the platform. That might be a humbling experience.
Word has it, she's fed up with shouldering the blame for the movie's catastrophic flop at the box office. Allegedly, she wants to flip the script by leaking insider studio files. Everything from damning emails about the Dwarf's fiasco to cost breakdowns that soared past the $250 million mark.
These are roles made for actors of my stature. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right.
If she can prove that behind-the-scenes executives made the truly damaging decisions, maybe, just maybe, she can redirect public ire and salvage her image. But is this rumored plan just another reckless move from an actress who critics say ruined her own fairy tale? Or a strategic masterstroke that reveals the real meltdown orchestrators at Disney?
She continued celebrating herself by posting that she's in the #1 movie in the world, which is a remarkable thing to post when you are the laughingstock of an entire industry.
Those close to the meltdown claim Zegler's frustration has reached a boiling point. Being labeled the main culprit behind the film's emptier-than-empty theaters apparently felt like the final straw. At first, she tried stepping back from her brash, politically charged social media presence, allegedly at Disney's urging, to minimize any further controversies. But the fiasco only deepened. Empty seats, dwarfs replaced by uncanny CGI, and leaked audio of a flippant Zegler mocking the classic 1937 Snow White all formed a tsunami of negativity, overshadowing every genuine attempt at marketing.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Now, insiders suggest she's brewing a new strategy to leak secret Snow White stuff that implicates the studio's chaotic leadership. If that rumor is true, she's gambling big. Disney's known for keeping a fortress around sensitive data, and crossing that line might spark lawsuits even bigger than her meltdown. Yet Zegler might see no better way out of the fiasco than to reveal how Disney itself bungled the entire operation, from script to final cut. But can a shocking info dump about Disney's mishaps realistically shift blame off Zegler?
This is really a bad movie, and I apologize to Walt Disney himself. I'm sorry.
On one hand, it could highlight how clueless budget blowouts or meddling execs doomed the film long before she tacked on her personal controversies. On the other hand, watchers say it might paint her as an even more impossible star, defying NDAs and burning bridges with a massive studio. At best, it might confirm that the meltdown was truly a group effort, not just Zegler's doing. At worst, it cements her reputation as a loose cannon no studio wants to handle.
Studios really need to go back to what they originally did, which was tell your stars to shut up and not say things, because no one is paying to hear your star say offensive things off the screen.
For fans and critics, the real question is, will these rumored leaks overshadow the meltdown or become an extra chapter in an already epic fiasco? Thus begins the story of Snow White's collapse, a meltdown so spectacular that some call it Disney's biggest misstep in decades. It started with sky-high hopes and a staggering budget rumored to top $250 million.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
Disney had once minted gold, with live-action revamps like Beauty and the Beast. So, a star fresh off West Side Story, plus the iconic evil queen played by an A-list powerhouse? Easy money, or so the suits assumed. But from day one, controversies clung to the remake like a permanent shadow. Fans questioned the casting of a Latina actress for the famously pale-as-snow princess. Some conservative viewers got riled, while progressive fans celebrated the choice.
This woman shown here is not the actual woman playing Snow White, but the woman playing Snow White is named Rachel Zegler. And she and Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen.
Zegler didn't shy away. She fired back at critics, calling them losers bent on preserving the bloodline purity of a cartoon. It was bold, it was unsubtle, and it started the meltdown rolling.
Listen.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces. And people still line up to see her.
Oh my God.
And I can only hope
What does that mean?
that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Later, it wasn't just about heritage. Zegler hammered the original 1937 film, calling the prince a stalker and the story weird.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
She might have endeared fans if she'd carefully explained how the new version honors old traditions, while updating them. Instead, her scornful tone alienated dedicated Disney buffs who revered the first feature-length animated film in history. Add to that the political fiasco. Rachel's Free Palestine stance collided directly with her co-star Gal Gadot's Israeli background, apparently forcing Disney to provide additional security for Gadot as tensions rose online.
All hell broke loose. Gal started getting death threats. She's Israeli, and I think served in the IDF.
Yeah,
they flew an executive, one of the producers, out to go visit personally with Rachel Zegler to say, could you please take that down? Because we understand you can have your political views, but those aren't really helpful while you're trying to build an audience for a movie. Maybe you could save them for like your diary and your friends, but like maybe not, maybe just take the tweet down. And she wouldn't.
Observers said this meltdown was bigger than any typical feud. It had global conflict overshadowing a kiddie-friendly fairy tale. Then came the dwarf's fiasco, courtesy of Peter Dinklage's scathing condemnation of outdated stereotypes. Rattled, Disney pivoted to a plan that replaced the beloved dwarfs with strange CG stand-ins that fans found stiff, lifeless, and a bit uncanny.
Did the dwarfs make it or no?
Well, the CGI dwarfs did. Of course, that goes back to the original controversy where Peter Dinklage, a very talented little person actor, said, why are we doing that? We've hired a Latina actress to be Snow White. That's progressive. But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures.
The meltdown soared, with each new reshoot or extra effect ballooning the budget. Allegedly, test screenings bombed. Audiences found the rewrite neither whimsical nor respectfully updated, but a half-baked attempt at wokeness that lost the heart. The meltdown watchers pointed out how each negative rumor overshadowed the next, turning hype into horror.
Then they got even crazier and they decided that the dwarves in Snow White weren't woke enough, okay?
Some fans believed the fiasco might be salvageable if the star exuded humility and positivity. Instead, Zegler continued a brazen approach that overshadowed any sincere nuance the film might have had. Meanwhile, the meltdown's public face got uglier. Producer Mark Platt's son, Jonah, posted a now infamous comment blasting Zegler for injecting personal politics into the promotional tour. He claimed Mark flew cross-country to plead with her to knock it off. Even that didn't quell the meltdown.
The son of Disney producer Mark Platt, a guy named Jonah Platt, someone commented on his page, hey, your dad, what kind of jerk is he to fly to New York and censor a 20-year-old girl? He just fired back. This is like 30 minutes ago. You really want to do this? My dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand a 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity. This is called adult responsibility and accountability. And her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on the film. She hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie and its success. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged.
Ziegler's social media spree continued, culminating in a post that read, "May Trump's supporters never know peace." That line hammered the meltdown to unstoppable proportions, effectively ticking off half the potential audience. big Disney brass panicked, realizing an actress attacking a large chunk of Americans was not exactly a marketing coup.
And they postponed the release of this thing, Ben, for a year because their star, Rachel Zegler, was so unlikable, told all Trump supporters that they could off, excuse me, but she did. That was just in November. They didn't even know she was going to do that one. Said she hated Snow White, mocked the fact that there was a prince and that she falls in love as opposed to leaning into her own power.
Gina Carano's fans quickly seized on the meltdown as evidence of a double standard. After all, Carano was swiftly fired from The Mandalorian over social media statements that some found offensive, yet Zegler was still front and center in a multi-hundred-million-dollar production. Carano, whose job vanished for less, felt vindicated, pointing out that Zegler had said far more inflammatory stuff yet kept her lead role.
Which tweet was it, or what did you say that got you fired?
I think the final straw was the Holocaust tweet.
On top of that, there was friction with co-star Godot, rumored to be borderline intolerant of Zegler's impulsiveness. The meltdown soared when the two appeared awkwardly at the 2025 Oscars. Body language watchers pounced on every stiff smile. Then Zegler delivered what fans read as a snipe, calling Godot a professional pageant queen. The meltdown watchers saw this as a meltdown within a meltdown, star versus star, overshadowing everything else.
Welcome, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
By the time the film released, the meltdown loomed large. Instead of a glamorous premiere at Hollywood's El Capitan, Disney did a subdued daytime event with minimal press. The meltdown overshadowed any hype. Audiences were basically in the dark about the final product aside from controversies. People discovered that not only was the film lacking a big romantic element, as Zegler had teased, it was also lacking a sense of purpose or nostalgia.
You want to trash that legacy? That company that now Disney has screwed up the last 5 years trying to please a small percentage of minorities in America? Yeah, we're sick of it. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, Rachel Zegler, whatever her name is, yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents who have kids who are your customers. You're supposed to win parents over. You're talking to kids, the parents pay for the tickets. You have to be a dummy as a marketer.
The meltdown overshadowed test screenings, overshadowed any half-decent cinematography or music. When box office returns started trickling in, the meltdown soared from mere fiasco to full-blown embarrassment. A meager $43 million opening weekend sealed the movie's fate, a monstrous flop far below The Little Mermaid's $95 million, or even Dumbo's smaller but more respectable $46 million. The meltdown was probably best illustrated by the cringe moment that went viral. Zegler and a few friends in a deserted theater, brandishing Snow White cups and popcorn as though trying to hype themselves up in a ghost town.
What can be said about this level of narcissism? Here, please, enjoy.
The meltdown watchers latched onto how she had once bragged about fans lining up around the block. Now the only lines, ironically, were on social media, where people mocked the entire fiasco.
She continued celebrating herself by posting that she's in the #1 movie in the world, which is a remarkable thing to post when you are the laughingstock of an entire industry. This is what narcissism looks like. Narcissism for 200.
In a resurfaced clip, Zegler predicted unwavering public devotion, but the meltdown reality was an auditorium so empty you could hear a pin drop. The meltdown watchers couldn't resist pointing out the irony. But apparently, that's not the meltdown's final chapter. Enter rumor about Zegler's plan to leak files that highlight studio-level mismanagement. These files, presumably internal emails or cost breakdowns, might indicate that Disney suits insisted on reshoot after reshoot, not caring about bloated costs. Or that executives themselves stoked the dwarf's fiasco. Or that top marketing bigwigs were the ones who approved Zegler's outlandish statements at first, hoping to generate buzz. The meltdown watchers say if she does indeed release such evidence, it might show that some suits were incompetent or contradictory, fueling last-second changes that destroyed the film's coherence.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them. It's the old, it truly is go woke, go broke.
Zegler's rumored objective is to prove the meltdown isn't her fault alone, but the product of a chaotic, mismanaged approach at the very top. Yet that leak strategy is also mind-blowing and potential risk. Disney is legendary for its fortress of NDAs and fierce legal muscle. Should Zegler push too far, the Meltdown watchers warn, she risks facing lawsuits more crippling than the negative press she's already drowning in. But maybe, from Zegler's vantage point, she's got little to lose after the Meltdown has battered her brand. If the Meltdown narrative is that she single-handedly tanked a $250 million project, maybe exposing bigger truths can at least distribute the blame, or so the rumor goes.
It's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
Meanwhile, fans remain polarized. Some admire Zegler's tenacity, calling it bold activism, to stand up to the Disney machine if she truly believes she's not the Meltdown's ringleader. Others see it as a further Meltdown extension, another sign she won't accept accountability for her impulsive statements and disrespect for a beloved classic. Additionally, if these rumored leaks involve details that could end careers or reputations, at Disney, the Meltdown might escalate to a nuclear level, overshadowing even the film's catastrophic box office. People wonder if Disney might quietly pay Zegler to keep quiet, offering hush money or a settlement that allows them to bury the Meltdown and move on.
Because guess what? Nobody grew up with that crap, and nobody's all that interested in it. It's very good for people to learn that women need men, and also that men need women. I don't know why this fell out of fashion, and we're not allowed to just say that sort of stuff anymore, but it actually happens to be the truth.
With all this swirling chaos, overshadowed is any real discussion about the film's content. Some watchers mention that a few sequences were stunning visually, or that certain comedic bits had potential. But the Meltdown overshadowed every last piece of creative endeavor. Nobody wants to praise a film so thoroughly drenched in scandal. Others wonder if Disney might pivot to streaming, hoping a quiet Disney Plus release might salvage some minor interest from subscribers. But Meltdown watchers say that's unlikely to reclaim a fraction of the colossal budget lost.
For every one of the 18 hours I am in this Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress or as a Steven Spielberg lead actress.
The Meltdown also exposed how quickly a beloved brand can unravel if the star publicly disrespects cherished source material while diving into divisive politics. If anything, the Meltdown might scare other studios from similarly heavy-handed remakes or from hiring stars who can't keep controversies in check. As for Zegler, the Meltdown watchers question if she can bounce back. Some believe she's still incredibly talented, referencing her vocal prowess in West Side Story. But forging a stable path forward might require a total rebranding, assuming she doesn't blow everything up with her rumored strategy to leak documents. That move, if real, might hamper any future collaboration with big studios. Still, Zegler might be banking on forging an indie path or allying with producers who appreciate activism.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
Some fans say she's a new generation star who refuses to conform. They see her Meltdown as an unfortunate byproduct of Hollywood's outdated marketing protocols. Could she reemerge from the Meltdown as a champion for outspoken, socially conscious artistry? Or does the Meltdown become a cautionary tale about how not to handle an iconic role? In the broader Meltdown tapestry, Gina Carano's commentary resurfaces frequently. Carano watchers argue that the Meltdown shows just how inconsistent big studios are. Carano got axed swiftly, but Zegler was allowed to soldier on, arguably inflicting more brand damage. Carano's defenders say it's galling. Meanwhile, Carano herself apparently feels validated seeing how drastically the Meltdown has dwarfed her own controversies. That discrepancy leads critics to accuse Disney of hypocrisy, punishing one star for politics, ignoring another's more divisive statements. Possibly Disney had too much money sunk into Snow White to recast or reorder. The Meltdown watchers say that's precisely the risk. If you revolve a $250 million project around one star and she stirs controversy, you face a Meltdown you can't easily fix.
There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings.
As for co-star Gal Gadot, rumor has it she's retreated from the Meltdown as best she can. Early on, fans hoped the dynamic between the evil queen and Snow White would anchor the film. But that synergy apparently fizzled once the meltdown overshadowed everything. Some suspect Godot is simply biding her time, fulfilling minimal press obligations, and then distancing herself from the fiasco entirely. If Zegler truly leaks secrets that also mention tensions with Godot, the Meltdown watchers wonder if more co-star animosity will come to light. Yet, ironically, the meltdown itself has proven more fascinating to the public than the film. People devour stories of reshoot mania, dwarfs replaced last minute, and multi-million-dollar fiascos. That might be the final tragedy. The meltdown is the real show, overshadowing a potentially interesting attempt at reimagining Disney's original gem. It's reminiscent of fiascos like John Carter or The Lone Ranger, but supercharged by social media, star feuds, and politics. In that sense, the meltdown is indeed unstoppable. As new rumors swirl that Zegler plans to leak insider emails or cost breakdowns to shift blame, Meltdown watchers question whether it's a last-ditch attempt at redemption or a kamikaze mission against the House of Mouse. Possibly both. If the meltdown continues unabated, fans expect even more shocking rumors or half-confirmed leaks in the coming weeks. Some watchers say they wouldn't be surprised if Zegler decides to stand up at a public forum and tear into Disney for silencing her voice, or if she vanishes from mainstream projects to seek a niche audience that embraces her activism. The meltdown is unpredictable, but one thing seems certain. The fiasco dwarfs the typical studio controversies. For now, the meltdown leaves us with a battered film, an outsized budget, a deserted box office, dwarfs replaced by odd CGI, and an actress who might or might not be about to unleash studio secrets. The meltdown watchers eagerly await any sign of these rumored leaks. Fans remain divided. Some want to see Disney's alleged failings laid bare, while others fear it's just another reckless strike from Zegler that ensures no major studio trusts her again. So we put the question to you. If Zegler truly leaks behind-the-scenes data proving the meltdown was more the studio's fault than hers, would you side with her? Or do you think she's crossing a line that could bury her career for good? Weigh in below. This fiasco shows no sign of slowing. If you liked this deep dive, remember to drop a like, hit subscribe for more must-know Hollywood drama, and catch the next video on your screen for an even wilder look at how big productions can crumble. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. There's plenty more meltdown madness to uncover.